and perm debate.
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
the other substance arguments.
The other substance,
and
and I'll
then
tell you what our
theory
conditionality is. Yeah.
last.
He's just doing the essentialism stuff and then I'll talk about it.
Yes.
Okay. Well,
And then-
since I have some multiple sheets.
Oh, right. Yeah, and then after I do the theory stuff, I'll get to like explicit rule at the end. So.
And then you'll talk about.
Have explicit rule.
Explicit oral somewhere?
Yeah.
The T-flow.
Yeah.
I know, where is it?
At the bottom. Just have it handy. There's only 2 sheets. 3 sheets. We're not going to contest these arguments. They have no trade-off evidence. It's any good. All the evidence that describes the difference between sexual and the gender distinction is our offense because their single evidence proves that it is a significant difference to include gender versus sexual, etc. If we win any risk, even if they win any risk linked to their critique, it's just at the cost of access to the entirety case because they don't actually overrule the Morrison precedent. That will be later, which would outweigh the arguments he explained to Jiminy. Causes global nuclear war. That's fixed for collapse. He explained feminist violence exists since the Trojan War. Jiminy has preserved peace through the Cold War. He's explained time phenomenal. Is collapsing out toward evidence. I also explain how they get access to these impact arguments. These arguments we knew, and we certain impact calculus early. We should not be allowed to do so. There's no a priori voting issue for any risk of feminist agenda because we do not construct anyone as a historical artifact. We only speak to change the way the state can speak to general motivations. Now there's habits of the permutation. They have no trade-off evidence. It's any good. There is no risk of co-option or scenario for how culture will be able to change its arguments. You have 2 separate options. The only net benefit over the permutation is that there's a risk a woman can sue under sexual violence, but they're considering it in the status quo. They're already suing under the general requirement, which means that that's not unique. The only net benefit that you should defer to is the unique net benefit of the case, which they can't solve because even if legal scholars, their evidence agrees that the federal civil rights remedy can be classified as something as gender, it's not in the actual text of the decision. Here's the text of it: civil rights victims, gender violence, by time victims of federal civil rights victims for crimes motivated by gender, and it's called animus standard. Here's our law response to your law from your law professor's law from 2003 when plaintiffs against file lawsuit about civil rights person gender speaks especially reception recognize gender discrimination and gender motivated by liking factors to define into the sexual epithets. This evidence specifically says that it's only a question of what is gender motivated, not a sexual motivated question, which means that you cross-play all their evidence why this is an important distinction, and it proves that they rule in an entirely separate issue, which means the counterclaim can't account for solving any of the case. He says we link to our unpredictability arguments, but that's not true because you don't establish the economic non-economic test by overruling Morrison. Only we do because only our argument has 2 separate tests that thus extend that. That's not confusing to lower courts. All of our competitiveness arguments are question of the economy. There's no reason why the permutation is severance. There's no intent violation of the intent voting issue. Just do both permutation. There's no reason why we believe there's no reason why we believe the racist language of conditionality is not true because it's just a test of competition, and you are trying to change your counter text, which is uniquely worse. Additionally, there also to double blind you, the permutation is not able to solve and obey through your act of sexual violence, where the status quo proves that the completion would inevitably occur, and you should just default to net benefit of solving the entirety of the case, which I explained. Net benefit above. Now he says that we have no offense. However, offense of the case, this argument is explained above, and how you can access these arguments. They have no extinction impact. This evidence is silly. It's just how sexual repression could cause war. Their irregular evidence is terrible. Additionally, empirical evidence, nice claim now guy in 2003, the promise of gender equality and peace agreements to test that back empirical evidence was the country when it's discriminating against. In the local society, the post-5 generation 30% electoral quota voting, 8.8% elected were actually just low. And additionally, our arguments access their arguments. The public and government would accept evidence when time supports the front 2003 efforts to advance peace and conflict, security, with back to the efforts of 9/11, and during returns to the masculine avenues as to defense media responses to the penalties on the map. Additionally, their methodology is flawed from later 2005 and the argument against interstate violence and structural violence. However, to the mass rate of soldiers more time the white people states peace and party phenomenon to be any serious thing about international relations when made racial people in all cities peace and more mystery would be because many ones there leave everything that 3 usually not very much resolute, ignoring world high politics and influence attention to various feminist political groups, following around working activities and part of little unsuspected mobilizing its generation states a lot owes a lot to a Marxist dream, which they've considered is something that is not reliable. Anyway, he says our best counter arguments are not true, and that leads to one of the permutations. Arguments are all explained above. We have specific evidence now. The conditionality debate extend the conditionality's voting issue. We will see that they get picks that neutralize all their ground standard. They don't have any other offense related to competitive equity. They concede fairness comes before education because teaching violence is only responsible and only happens when both sides have any opportunity no new arguments to this question are offense, ace-point strategy, conditionality, forcibility, choose, allocate arguments, effective, B-point time, speeches, focus, make arguments, we screw up, undercover. Like, in this question, we did have an offense, like you pointed out against the K, and that he hoses us on it, and they focus the entirety of the block on that argument. That's in round of BC's point, we had to get our education arguments with more in-depth debate, which is better for detailed analysis. They all consider there's no limiting function in both classes. These two can vote potential abuse, only and conditionality is trivial. They say that we're 9 minutes of offense, so that's fine. You can kick the counterplay in the other 9 minutes. The 1 and C become hedge against the 1 and C. Also, there are multiple words that make it possible to defend our 9 minutes. Also, the negative has 9 minutes. The 1 and C, they say increase critical thinking, but this just means the scoop becomes what we don't answer well, not the best thinking. Also, this argument justifies the worst abuse for the benefit of making us better debaters sometime in the future. Offense implicates our ability to debate in round, which is a faster time frame. Unconditionality is more in depth with equal playing field. They say negative flexibility. You have T dissets, case arguments, as well as picks, which you can exclude the plan, which we're conceding to you all. So you get 2 options. They just have to pick one for each debate. It's equal ground because both sides have one option. They say creates the best squeezy arguments, but excuse me. The debate comes about about the worst arguments that they're advanced, like the way he picked up on bad Tweezy arguments. Also, ace point, these can be used strategically since they will kick out of our good arguments. B's point contradictory arguments, as a result of multiple rules, will take out the other good ones. They say side bias, but this is arbitrary. The only limiting function is 1. I haven't seen it. They say infinite prep time, but they get it 2. We also have to go negative generic. They get years of prep time. They can focus the debate with 1 and C arguments. Infinite prep time is irrelevant if the 2AC can't make the best arguments anyway. They say personalized speech to get the block, and we can have a good 2AR if the 2AC is fucked, and it's about 50-50. And this topic is extremely negative bias anyway. The CETA proves that only 3 limbs after the quarter even run. They say breadth is better, how depth is superior, it's more educational. We learn about more issues in detail, and the basic point is it allows us to multiple prelims that will guarantee we get depth. However, focusing within those debates is the best of both worlds, which is why you should prefer it. Additionally, they say all arguments conditional with counterplays uniquely change world PI, and we have to test competitiveness compared to the plan and retreat net benefits. It's are just different versions of reflections of the status quo, whereas counterplans are entirely different, and this is just by severance of arguments conditional. There's no reason why we have to defend the plan text, which means we have permutation to be able to solve. They say permits check, but we can't. It's a one-word counterplan. We cannot do that. We don't initiate the permutation. We derive from the counterplan. Permutations are tied to the plan. They control permutations, so when they kick the counterplan, it also kicks the permutation as well. And they have the block to burn the permutation and the time skew still overall. They say best policy option, but without a strategy, we can't defend our only best policy because it makes the debate to be decided by affirmative mistakes. Best policy option is also arbitrary, and this is just reason why they should get counterplans, not reason why they should get conditional ones. Now, go to their picks arguments. Some of these are offense against any of our arguments. They can see that conditional picks are uniquely bad, which means that education should not outweigh ground because they can see that they can just kick out of our argument and use our offense against us. This is a dropped argument and entirely blocked new answers. They say no, and on abuse. This is not true because you had a conditional amendment to your argument, which is uniquely legitimate. If you want conditionalized value, you should reject this argument. Crossplay all their on these crossplay all their plan focus arguments are also offense for conditionality.